Hey everybody, in today's video we are going to look at the formula and features of some common chords so that you guys can develop an understanding of how different types of chords work and also how they're spelled. And specifically we're going to be looking at some basic triads as well as major and minor extended chords, dominant chords, and altered chords. And to make things easy to follow, I'll have notes up on the screen though. If you want to see all the notes in a single source, then I've created a PDF which will have chord symbols, examples, and formulas which you can find on my Patreon page in the link below. Without further ado then, let's get started looking first at some basic triads. For the first chord today, we've got the major triad, which is formed by taking a root, major third, and perfect fifth, or 1, 3 for major third, and 5. As an example of a C major triad, we would have a C note, an E note, and a G note to form the chord. And if we wanted something like a minor triad, all we would have to do is take the third and lower it by a semitone to give us what's called a flat third or minor third. So, for example, a C minor triad would be spelled as C, E flat, and G, or 1, flat, 3, 5. And moving on, our next chord is the augmented triad, which is really similar to a major triad, except instead of a regular fifth, it has a raised fifth, or sharp 5. So the formula for an augmented triad then is 1, 3, sharp 5, or root, major third, and sharp 5. And for the notes of a C augmented triad, that's C, E, and G sharp. And up next is the diminished triad, which is more similar to a minor triad in that it's got a flat 3, but in this case it's also got a diminished fifth or a flat 5. So the formula here for the diminished triad is root, flat 3, meaning minor third, and flat 5, meaning diminished fifth. And the notes in a C diminished triad are C, E flat, and G flat. Now, for the next type of chords, we have the suspended chords, which are just basic major triads, but instead of a third, these have been replaced with either a major second or a perfect fourth. And so the first kind of sus chord that we have is the sus2 chord, which is spelt as a root, major second, and perfect fifth, or 1, 2, and 5. And that'll give us a sound like this. And for the notes of a C sus2 chord, that would be C, D, and G. Now, if we wanted a C sus4, all we would have to do is take the major second and raise it up to the fourth here in relation to the C. So the formula would be 1, 4, and 5. And for the C sus4, that would be spelled as C, F, and G. So that does it for the basic triads. Let's move on now to looking at some extended chords. Okay, for extended chords, we're going to kick things off by looking at some major extended chords. And these are pretty easy to understand once you've got the gist behind them. So at the core of every major extended chord is the formula 1, 3, and 5, or the basic major triad. And all that we have to do is add additional notes or extensions to get these extended chords. So the first type of extended chord that we've got is the major sixth chord, which takes the basic major triad and adds a major sixth interval to it. In this case, that's spelt as 1, 3, 5, and 6 for major sixth, or for a C major sixth chord, that's the notes C, E, G, and A. Moving on, our next type of extended chord is the major seventh chord, which is spelt as a 1, 3, 5, and 7, where 7 represents the major seventh interval. In the case of a C major 7 chord, that's spelt as C, E, G, and B. Now, if we wanted to take things a little further, we could play a major 9 chord, which just adds a major ninth interval to the C major 7 formula. So in that case, it's 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Or for the C major 9 chord, that's spelt as C, E, G, B, and D. Now for the next type of chord, we've got the add 9 chord, which is essentially just a simplified major 9 chord in that we get rid of the major 7th. So the formula for an add 9 chord is 1, 3, 5, and 9, or the major 9 here. Or in the case of a C add 9, that's the notes C, E, G, and D. Now, if we wanted to spice up this sound a little bit, what we could do is add a major sixth interval to get what's called a 6-9 chord, or a chord that's spelled as 1, 3, 5, 6, and 9. Or for a C6-9, that's the notes C, E, G, A, and D. Now, for the last chord today, we've got what's called the major 9 with the sharp 11th chord. And this chord takes the major 9 formula and adds a sharp 11 interval to it. In this case, a sharp 11 chord, or a sharp 11 interval, is just a perfect fourth that's been raised a semitone. So the formula then is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and sharp 11. Or in the case of a C major 9 sharp 11 chord, this is the notes C, E, G, B, D, and F sharp, or sharp 11 there. And that sounds like that, which is kind of a nice, jarring, crunchy, tense, Lydian flavored sound. So yeah, that does it for the extended major chords. Now let's move on to looking at some extended minor chords. Okay, for the minor extended chords, these are formed by taking a minor triad and adding some additional notes in the upper register in the form of extensions. And for the first type of minor extended chord that we've got today, we have the minor 6th chord, which is formed by taking a root, minor 3rd, or a flat 3, 5, and major 6th, or 1, flat 3, 5, 6. In the case of a C minor 6, that's the notes C, E flat, G, and A. For the next type of chord, we have the minor 7th chord, which takes a minor triad and adds the flat 7, also known as the minor 7th, to it. So that is spelt as C, E flat, G, and B flat for a C minor 7 chord. And if we want, we can turn it into a minor 9 chord by adding a major 9 interval to that first formula. So that's root, flat 3, 5, flat 7, and 9, or the notes C, E flat, G, B flat, and D for a C minor 9 chord. And we can turn this into a minor 11 chord by just adding the note F here, in the case for a C minor 11. And yeah, the minor 11 chord is formed by taking the root, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 9, and 11, or the notes C, E flat, G, B flat, D, and F. Moving on, we have a slightly different type of chord here coming up in the form of the minor 7 flat 5 chord. So in this chord, we have a root, flat 3, flat 5, also known as the diminished fifth, then the flat 7 or the minor 7. So in the case of a C minor 7 flat 5, that's the notes C, E flat, G flat, and B flat. So that's how that one kind of works and is spelled. And it'll give you this sound here. For the next type of chord, we have the minor add 9 chord, which is just a minor 9 chord, but without the 7th in it. And that's spelt as 1, flat 3, 5, and 9, or the notes C, E flat, G, and D in the C minor add 9 chord. And if we want, we can add a 6 to it to create a C minor 6-9. So that would be spelt as 1, flat 3, 5, major 6, 9, or C, E flat, G, A, and D. So that does it for the minor extended chords, and we are now going to push on and look at some dominant chords and altered chords. Okay, for dominant chords, these are formed on the basis of the dominant 7th chord, which is spelt as 1, 3, 5, and flat 7. And for every dominant chord that we look at, they're just going to be some kind of modification of this sound, or maybe like addition to this sound. So once again, the dominant chord was spelt as 1, 3, 5, and flat 7, or the notes C, E, G, and B flat in the case of a C7. And we can add a 9th to it, a major 9th that is, to form what's called a C9 or a dominant 9 chord. And in this case, the C9 chord is spelt as C, E, G, B flat, and D. And if we wanted, we can add another extension to it in the form of an 11th, which is just that same previous formula, but with an 11th attached to it. giving us the spelling C, E, G, B flat, D, and F. And for a final extension, we can also add a 13th to give us a 13 chord, a dominant 13. And that's the formula 1, 3, 5, flat 7, 9, 11, and 13. But the 11 is kind of optional. You can slice that one out if you don't like that particular sound. However, something that we can do to the dominant chord to give it some interesting flair is we can suspend the third to create what's called a dominant 7 sus4 chord. And this is spelled as 1, 4, 5, flat 7. Essentially, we have a sus4 triad with a flat 7 tacked onto the end there. So for a C dominant 7 sus4, this would be spelled as C, F, G, and B flat. For the next two chords, we have what are called sharp 9 and flat 9 chords. And these are basically just dominant 9 chords where the ninth is either raised to semitone or it's lowered to semitone. In this case, the formula for a sharp 9 chord would be 1, 3, 5, flat 7, and sharp 9, or the notes C, E, G, B flat, and D sharp. And for the flat 9 chord, we would have the formula 1, 3, 5, flat 7, flat 9, or the notes C, E, G, B flat, and D flat. Now for our last two chords, we have a chord that's called the diminished 7th chord, which is basically the same as the minor 7 flat 5 chord, except the 7th has been lowered one more time. So the formula for that would be 1, flat 3, flat 5, and then double flat 7. So a double flat 7 is when we take a major 7th and lower it not just once, but twice. So for a C diminished 7 chord, that'd be the notes C, E flat, G flat, and B double flat, aka A. And finally, we have the major minor 7th chord, which is just a minor triad, but with a major 7 interval tacked onto it. So the formula for that is 1, flat 3, 5, major 7. And in the case of a C minor major 7, that's the notes C, E flat, G, and B. So yeah, there are a bunch of different chord formulas. I recommend memorizing at least the ones that you're going to use here, as these can really help you to gain some fluency with chord language and just being able to kind of like create these types of sounds all over the fretboard and stuff like that. All right, folks, so there you have it. Hopefully this information was digestible, as I covered a heck of a lot of stuff. But anyways, if you like this video, then please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, as I put out a new video every single week. And if you want to support the channel and get some notes for this video, then please consider checking out my Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month, you guys will have access to some bonus content like guitar tabs, lesson notes, chord diagrams, and other little goodies. And honestly, the Patreon page really helps me out, as it allows me to get some better equipment to make these videos even greater. And finally, I also teach guitar lessons through Skype. There's a link to my email address in the description below. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Take care.